Yeah, another LinkedIn Live, and we are now in November. And of course, the first Tuesday of every month, we have a special guest, and today is no exception. We got the fantastic Kate Burke from Q Communications. Hello, Kate.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Miles.
Hi, Kate. Right. I will just check my phone to make sure we are live, the usual sort of stuff. Kate and I have known each other for quite some time now and done some business together. And we were chatting a few months ago about what we could talk about on a live. And I know that Kate has been using AI within her business. And it is that sort of hot topic at the moment, Kate, isn't it? So we're going to talk, I think, about AI in general. We're going to have a sort of a back and forth in terms of a chit chat, but specifically we'll be looking at how you can, not you, Kate, but how we're looking at how you use it, but looking how we can give some advice to the viewers as to how they can use it within their PR. Kate, while I'm looking at my phone, why don't you just introduce yourself in terms of your background?
Yes, so I am the managing partner of Q Communications here in the UK. We work across Ireland as well. And we are a fully integrated, fully serviced PR, communications agency. We first set up in the Middle East many, many moons ago now. We've got two offices, one in Dubai and one in Abu Dhabi. And then right in the midst of COVID, we decided to launch the UK office. So I came back to the UK to open the office, and it's just gone from there, really. We specialize in 4 different areas of PR and comms. So, but that doesn't mean that we don't work across other industries. We just, it's good to have a niche. So we work across hospitality, mainly hospitality, travel, tourism, F&B. So we work with hotels, restaurants, chefs, food brands. And then we also have a fab beauty team as well. So health and beauty team working with kind of vitamins, as well, and skincare brands. And then we also look after property. So we work with some architects, and also home interests, so home products. Basically, what I say is anything, if you tip your house upside down, anything that falls out, including kitchens and bathrooms, we can do. And we could just do a whole LinkedIn live on what we do in PR because there is so much. But ultimately, it's all about brand reputation. It's all about getting your brand out there, raising your brand awareness. And ultimately, it's all about generating sales, generating bookings, and helping increase that bottom line. So yeah, that's what we do.
Nice introduction. And I know you have a couple of high profile chefs and restaurants on your roster, don't you?
Yes, we look after the amazing Lisa Goodwin-Allen, who is, you've probably seen her all over the TV. She's been on MasterChef. She was on Great British Menu. She was the only chef to have a course through to each, have a dish through to each course in Great British Menu one year. And she won the grand finale as well. And she is just amazing. She's the executive chef at Northcote, working for the Stafford Collection. And she's just brilliant, a real true Lancashire girl. And her food is just incredible. So yeah, and then we also look after Gilpin in the Lake District, who has a Michelin star chef, ex-Fat Duck, Ollie Bridgewater, and he's just doing some incredible things. So yeah, we love food at Q.
And I know you mentioned there the Lake District. You recently did a campaign all around clearing up the water in Lake Windermere, I think, didn't you?
Yeah, so it's a Save Windermere. It's part of the Save Windermere campaign. The owners of Gilpin, Barney and Zoe Cunliffe, they are hugely passionate about sustainability. It's a family business. It's been in the family for many generations, and they are just so passionate about the area where that's where their business comes from, the tourism, and there are certain companies putting lots of sewage into Lake Windermere, which is devastating, and it's obviously creating huge pollution. It's killing a lot of the wildlife, a lot of the obviously the plantation plants and vegetation. And so they basically, Barney, it was his kind of brainchild. He came up with this campaign called Chefs for Save Windermere, and he got a number of chefs across Lake District, lots of the Michelin star chef. There's lots of Michelin star chefs in Cumbria. And he brought them all together, and he did a series of dinners over a week to raise money and raise awareness for the Save Windermere campaign. And to hopefully, ultimately it's about getting names on petition, creating more names on the petition, and taking it to the government and lobbying as well at the end of the day. So, but yeah, we did that campaign. We got them some great coverage and the national titles and all the regionals. And yeah, it's done. It's a feel good campaign, and you feel like you're doing something good.
No, definitely. I think a very worthwhile cause. Okay, well, as usual, if you've got any particular specific questions, then please pop them in the chat, and I'll do my very best to get Kate to answer them live on air for you today. But if you have any sort of secret squirrel questions that you want Kate to answer for you, then her email is on the screen. Please feel free to get in touch with her direct. Well, Kate, let's start off by just talking about AI within your own business. How is QComms currently utilizing AI?
Well, we've been using AI for years, as long as I can remember, which you don't even realize really that it's actually AI that you're using.
I thought AI was a new thing, Kate.
I know. Well, I think they've just termed it AI, but it's something that we've been using. And I mean, personally using in my PR career since the day I started, which was many, many moons ago. And you wouldn't be able to tell, but yeah, it's a long time, like at least 20 years. And yeah, you don't realize that you're using it. So the things that we've been using it for that long is media monitoring. So we use a media monitoring service that we can program ourselves in terms of we can add the keywords in and put in the search terms, and it basically monitors the coverage and mentions of our brand, of the brands and the clients that we work with across all media across the world. And it will then obviously share all those articles with you. But what it can also do is what we can actually program it to do or tell it to do is manage sentiment as well. So that means any positive, any negative mentions, which is really, really good for in a crisis situation, especially, but also for brand reputation. And you can, on another level, not just on coverage, it can manage any social media mentions. So it can look at any forums, it can look at any mentions and what people are saying on any of your social media platforms. And so it can really help to understand what that sentiment is towards a brand, whether it's positive or negative. So you can see where you sit in the market, and you can see where there's some challenges. What if you need to change that brand perception? If there are any negative perceptions that you hadn't perhaps thought of. So that's something that we've been using for many, many years that you didn't even realize was AI, but it is.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And I think, it's sort of the simple things, isn't it? It's the series of this world that have been in our phones for a long time now.
Exactly.
And again, I don't think people are really sort of thinking about the Alexa in the corner of the room as AI, but I think in a way that's one of the things that's fueled this explosion. AI relies on gathering data and lots of data sets, and it's definitely boomed in the last few years. Okay, so in terms of sort of content generation through AI, is there a risk of sort of plagiarism? Because certainly one of the AI interfaces that I use, there is a sort of a plagiarism checker there.
Yeah, so and obviously I mentioned one element of is what we used AI for, but we also actually use other tools as well, which are to help generate content. Also in brainstorming, we can use it for research as well. So it really helps to pull together lots of information that is all over the internet and bring it into short snippets and like overviews and snippets of content. And then we can get onto this later, but of content creation in terms of video and image, we use it a lot. But in terms of plagiarism and the originality of content, there is always a risk, because it's you're using a robot. It's a programmed system that has been built to gather data from the similar sources. So yes, there is always a risk about originality because of that. But I think there's ways of being clever about it. So we'll get onto specific is terrific shortly, but the more specific you are, and the more you are brand relevant and content relevant, the less likely it's going to be something that's been created before, for example. So yeah, there is always a risk of it, but then you have to go in and you do your due diligence as well, and go and check that once something's been created, stick that in Google and see if there's anything else that's similar out there, obviously. But again, this is something it's never going to replace the human. It's never going to replace us. So there's always got to be a human element to it. We would never ask an AI app to create a piece of content and just leave it like that. We would always amend it and add in the human touch to it. And again, that gets over the fact that it's more original if you add in your.
Yeah, I think especially when you're talking about something specific about your brand, right? Because you could ask AI to generate something around Lisa or Northcote, because there'd be a lot of information on the web about it. But, like asking it to do the same thing about Miles Marketing, there would be, a considerably less sort of data set for it to sort of search from. So I think it's so important what you just said there, that absolutely use those tools, but please sort of sit down and personalize them and make sure that they're expressing what you want it to say. It's definitely a tool to be used, not a tool to be 100% relied on, right?
No, exactly. And I always liken it to, a manual car or an automatic car. You're not cheating by driving a automatic car, because you still need to know how to drive. There's a skill in being a good driver, but you're just being assisted. So it's assisting you in driving. And I usually see that as what AI is. It's an assistance tool to help you be better, or just improve the overall process of what you're doing. I think AI is a brilliant tool of helping reduce the amount of time that you spend doing things, the research, like I mentioned before. And it can just speed up the whole process. So it actually makes you more productive. And it's just an assistance tool, which you'd be silly not to use it to support what you're doing. Because if you're writing content calendars and press releases like we are, the amount of content that we're writing, and with the amount of clients that we've got, actually, if we can speed that process up and create better content quicker, then why would we not use it?
Yeah, it's definitely about efficiency, isn't it?
Yeah.
What you mentioned it there, but what would you say to those people that say it's cheating? The resistors.
The resistors. Just like I said, it's not cheat. It's an assist. You're not cheating. You are being assisted in it. And actually, it's just, when you use synopsis, you go to the dictionary and you look. You've got one word and you can't think of what another word is to replace it. Well, it's just like that. You are using it to elevate the work that you're already doing. And actually, there is a huge skill in getting AI to work smart and properly for you. You can't. It's not. You're not just typing in something super quick. You've actually got to teach it, and you train the AI to give you better answers each time. And if you spend that time training the program and the apps, then each bit of content that you create for you is even better. So actually, it's not cheating. There's a skill to it. And actually, it is an assistance tool. So, it will never take away, you'll never be able to use it for certain things. So, like, certain apps are brilliant for creating that content, but there's no human touch. They don't get it doesn't understand emotion. It doesn't understand sarcasm. It doesn't understand irony. So there's so much it can't do that you then have to add into it. But it's, as I said, it's an assistance tool. You wouldn't say that you're cheating when you're driving like an automatic car, would you? So why are you cheating if you're using another tool in a different industry?
I think it's those people that are going to get left behind, right, by
Mm.
not embracing it. And I guess with anything new, that you're always going to get those sort of doubters. I mean, when someone comes to you, are you sort of, are you upfront in terms of, we use AI, with your clients? Do you sort of say, oh, by the way, we do use AI to sort of benefit us? Or do you have, because like I've got a specific product called, this is a plug, right? Called AI blogs, because what I found was that once Chat GPT specifically came to the fore, all of my monthly clients are coming to me and saying, Miles, why am I using you and a copywriter when I can use, they had no idea how hard it was to actually get AI to write you a blog in the first place, right? But I had to sort of evolve my product range to accommodate for those. So something that was at a lower price that would continue, me producing that content for them. So how do you deal with your customers in terms of AI?
I think when it's the content creation in terms of creating video and image, it's just another. I mean, there's so much AI used now in video and image production. Like, and some of the apps are incredible. I mean, Photoshop is on another level of how you can use AI. Um, and same with there's Firefly for video, and there's also Delhi, and there's also Lanza. Like, some of the things you can create are just amazing. Shutterstock also uses it. I don't think you realize as well, when you're using Shutterstock, if you type in image, I want a blue cup on a brown background with a tree, that's
Mm-hmm.
AI. So for them to bring all those images together, that's using AI technology. Do I need to be that specific that we're using that with a client? No, because that's something that we've been doing for years,
Yeah.
and years, and everybody, like, that's just what you do.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the content and the written content, we use it very, when I say specifically, it's not that we're not writing that content. So we are writing a content calendar, for example. But if we're struggling, say we've written a piece of content, it's all feeling a bit samey, we need a little bit more inspiration, we'll put something into the Chat GPT, and it'll just elevate it. So it's not, again, it's not like you are, and yes, we obviously, as part of what we're doing with our clients, and we're talking to them, and the tools, and we say that we have all these tools, it's not something that they're put off with, because actually them knowing we use those tools, know that actually they're going to get the very best content from us, and the results are going to match that. So actually it just elevates the work that we're doing, and it means that we're just at the forefront of technology. And if we weren't using it, I think it would be a negative thing.
I agree 100%. So you mentioned earlier on that you only get, in terms of what you put into it, back out, right? So it's about the commands that you give. I'm pretty au fait with it, but what tips can you give the viewers about the types of commands that you should be thinking about inputting?
So, for example, I'll give an example of a bad example and a good example. So, say we have a fashion brand, and we want to write a social media post about, it's a fashion brand, they are targeting a teenager, it's a new winter range, and we want the language to be chatty, fun, engaging. A bad example of a command to an app would be, write me a post for a fashion brand launching a new range, because you could get anything. A good example would be, write me a post about a teen fashion brand launching a new winter collection, that wants to target 14 to 16-year-old girls in the London area. So, and obviously then add in, we want it to be fun, we want it to be chatty, we want it to have a bit of humor, not formal, be engaging. So being specific is the best way to be when
Yeah,
you
and
are giving them a command.
so I think it's worthwhile for people to spend some time thinking about the commands that they put in, especially around their target market, making sure that they're very specific about who they want the piece to appeal to, and trying these things out and finessing those commands. So I definitely keep a Word document with sort of different commands in that you copy and paste into an AI platform. I think the other thing that I'd add for people as well there is don't be afraid to regenerate or to ask it to refine. So I'm talking about Chat GPT specifically here, but you'd put those things in and it would spew something out to you. You'll have noticed there's a regenerate if you're not happy, and it will ask you whether the regeneration is better or worse. And it's really important for it to learn what you want. So be sure that you tell it this is better, this isn't better. And you can then ask it to rewrite it, maybe in more of a formal tone or an informal tone or whatever it may be. Like, don't think that you just need to give it one set of commands and that's it. You can continue to ask it to refine the piece of content that it originally generated. And by doing that, you really do get some sort of really sharp pieces of copy. How can our viewers start using AI, Kate, within their business?
I think obviously Chat GPT is one of the most widely used. I think obviously you need to download that and start getting yourself familiar with the functions, and just start practicing with it really, using it in, if you've got to write an email and you're struggling writing an email in a, you're used to writing quite chatty emails and you need to write a more formal one, just kind of write the email first, put it into Chat GPT, and then ask it to write it in a more formal way. So
I,
that's one way that you could
I've,
start.
I've tried some of this myself. So what? And please try this at home, right? But you can write like a really brutal email to your boss, swearing and all this sort of stuff, right? And then you can pop it in Chat GPT and
Write
ask
a more
them
rational one.
to give you a rational version, and it really is quite something. It's quite
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
So what other tips can you sort of give around? Because I think that people just hear about chat, but there are lots of others out there, aren't there? So are there any that, I mean, you mentioned a couple earlier on, but I mean, I know that there are others out there. What other sort of platforms would you recommend?
Well, specifically for the PR industry, there's one called Natural Language Generation, which
Mm-hmm.
NLG, sorry, and that helps writing more press release writing. We don't personally use that, but I know of people that have used it, and that can definitely help with those press releases, especially if you are a small business that doesn't have budget to
Mm-hmm.
work with a PR agency or doesn't have somebody that works in house, and you have some news that you want to share with the local media, or you have some news you want to share, you can always use that tool to help you write that. And especially there's a certain structure that's required for press releases, and there's a certain way that press release journalists like to receive press releases in terms of the tone and the language.
Okay, I did cover this many months ago, but do you want to just give everyone a little outline as to a basic press release, because I see people getting it wrong all the time?
Well, so a press release, it needs to be attention grabbing. The media have about a 5-second attention span, and in terms of not
Right,
in
yeah,
general,
well,
I just mean when they're hearing from PR people,
yeah.
and on their emails. So they're getting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails, press releases, pictures from the likes of me, and people that work in house in the PR marketing industry about their brand and about their products and why we want them to be featured in their articles they're writing and in their publications. So what you've got to be is you have got to grab their attention in 5 seconds, not even 5 seconds, in like a millisecond, that they see it and they go, oh, actually. So a headline and a press release, it's got to basically say what that press release is about in a headline. So in 5-10 words. I would also say, which is something that we've always done, but more now, is that we bullet point the key points at the start. So you pull out all the key elements of that press release, the key points. So for example, we just wrote a press release about, we've got a steak restaurant up here in Cheshire, and they're doing some new offers. They're doing a new menu, and they've got like a bottomless brunch. And I got this press release from my team, and it didn't have the bullet points. So I was reading through it, and I was like, I actually just want to see those key points at the start. I want to know what this is about. So actually pull out the key points. So bottomless brunch for X amount, Sunday roast for this, and just stick them all at the top. Then you go into the where, what, why, when in the first paragraph, standard. And keep it, you can, press releases, there's obviously sometimes you have a lot of information that you want to share. If you subhead them and put them into sections, that helps with the reader go through that. So I would always say, if it's a long press release and you've got a lot of information to share, put it into subheadings and section it out. If it's something short, then keep it short. I would also try and always link it to something that's topical. So so for example, trend. So if you can link whatever you're talking about to a trend and then start talking about it in the press release, that's instantly going to attract a journalist, because they're writing about those trends all the time. And they're like, actually, I can fit that into this trend or this article. But try and put all your information in the first 2 paragraphs, and then everything else is just added information. And those bullet points at the top, which literally summarize the press release. And that would be my tips on how to write a press release.
No, I like that. I think the only thing that I'd add in is, oh, we've got some feedback there. Have we got feedback? Oh, have you got your phone on?
Have I?
Yeah. I'm getting reverb.
Oh,
No.
I haven't got my phone.
Hello. Okay,
Hello?
it's gone. Whatever was going on, it stopped. Good.
Oh.
Right. It was like, when you sort of like when you ring up the radio and then you have the.
I know. I was like, I have got my phone on. Should I have had it off?
No, I didn't mean on. I meant. Anyway, good. It's gone. Where the gremlins were. So make sure what you're sharing with the news desk, right, is newsworthy. Like, we don't. When I say we don't care about half of the stuff that goes on, you need to make sure that it's something which you're going to help the journalists do their job better, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think that's probably something that I didn't think of then, because that isn't, we're automatically thinking whenever I'm writing a press release, it is about something that's newsworthy.
Of course it is.
But yeah, there are things that we get sent from clients. They're like, oh, we've just done this and this. And I'm like, no one cares. No one
cares.
But I think what you need to do is look if you say you want to be in a certain publication, look at what those publications are writing about. Look about what that journalist is writing about. If they never feature anything like that, or that's any of that topic, you're never going to get in there. So yeah, make sure that it's something that is going to be, we always get, is it going to interest their readers?
Yes.
Like, are my readers, and also, ultimately they're bothered about clicks as well. So actually, is it going to generate them traffic to their website as well? So it's got to be something that is topical and obviously newsworthy. So for an obvious thing is it's a new restaurant, that's newsworthy. It's a new restaurant. There's a new chef, that's newsworthy. Someone that's part of your team that has a qualification that nobody knows about,
they did an exam
about, isn't newsworthy.
No.
I don't know. It's amazing for that person and it's amazing for the business.
Yeah.
But do the mass population care? No. And so
And,
that's what
and
you
I,
have to think about.
and do you know what I'd say there? It's definitely about target market. Everything comes down to target market, as you know, Kate. And yes, it's great that that person has got that qualification, but mainstream media is not the place to be announcing it. Announce it on your
Social
website, in your
media.
About Us page. Announce it on your social media. Stick it on your LinkedIn business page. Like, celebrate those things. With other things that aren't so media generated, think about writing them in a blog format, because maybe you want people to find you for those things, but the press don't care about them. So pretty much anything can be turned into content, right? It's just about which channel you push it to. The other thing that I was always taught as well is that there's two favorite words that like to be used within sort of grabbing people's attention, and that's new and free. Those two words are always very sort of attention grabbing. So think about those.
Or launch. If you say you're launching something,
Yeah.
it's
And
new
again,
to
I
the
would say,
market,
yeah, it's
UK
new.
launch. That always, like, new to the UK, that's always grabs them. A launch, and never been done before.
Yes,
First of its kind. That's
definitely.
always the
Definitely. I love that. Just in terms of other AI things that are out there, there are some now that are being used perhaps without people even knowing. So I know that Canva, they've integrated, I think it's called an API, where they're using ChatGPT in the background, but on their sort of interface. Things like for sort of certainly pictures, we pick, Deep AI, Crayon, Photo with an F, and then video, synthesizer. You got InVideo, Hour One, and then along the same lines as ChatGPT, Google and Bard is the other sort of version that's out there, along with Jasper. I'm going to say specifically ChatGPT is a good place to start. Once you sign up, it's free to use the version 3 version. A lot of people ask me, is it worth paying for the version 4? Unless you use it professionally, I'm going to say no. Yeah, if you're just using it for your business, then utilizing the free version is absolutely spot on. And the longer that these things are in existence, the better they're going to get, right? So start using them. I mean, I mentioned the APIs. Have you thought about the integration of a AI API into like your website? What do you sort of feel about embracing things in that way?
I mean, it's the way forward, absolutely. I think more in terms of AI for us, it's more using it for content to put onto our website. So, for example, you mentioned there some great apps. I mean, ones that I would recommend in terms of the image content is Lensa. I don't know, everyone's seen their school book
Yeah.
um, images, which are incredible. DALL-E, and then there's Midjourney as well, which are really, really good for static images. Again, you mentioned Canva. Yes, Canva is doing that in terms of resizing images and placing them in the right place. These things that we're using that you don't even realize is AI. I mentioned Photoshop earlier. That's another level, but obviously that's a more professional side. Adobe, again, for video creation is really, really good. So, I mean, in terms of using them for integrating into our website, in terms of tools ourselves, we're not at that point yet, but it is definitely something that will happen. We talk about where it's going in the next 5-20 years. I mean, that's the way it's going in terms of our website, in terms of websites, making them much more interactive, moving images. I mean, with Firefly now, you can actually change and manipulate the videos as they're playing. Like, it's unreal. Obviously this is more design, and that's the more,
Yeah.
you know, our design team use those. Don't ask me, I've never used it, and I don't know if I'd ever be able to, but our design team are, you know, playing with those now, and you're looking at how they can use those things. I mean, we created me and Miles had a bit of a laugh before, because we created an amazing animation for Top Golf, one of our clients. And I was like, I'm sure that's been done by AI. And then I speak to the team, they're like, no, AI is not quite there yet, Kate. We used an animator. I was like, oh, that's amazing. But in terms of where it's going, I think 5 years, then CGI, then they will be using AI, will be in CGI as well. Another thing that we've not touched on, that in terms of paid for campaigns through social media. So there's Meta have just launched Meta Advantage, which again is an elevated version of what the Meta Business Suite is at the moment. It's part of Meta Business Suite, but actually it helps targeting in terms with your ads and creating those ads themselves, generating those ads, and then making sure that they're being more specific on who they're targeting. So you can be even more specific now with your target audience, with their interests. So again, that's only going to get more advanced. I mean, you see now how, you know, adverts follow you around the internet, and, you know, Alexa and your phone's listening to what you're saying, and then you have an advert for it. You know, social media adverts are going to go the same way. So that's just another example.
So we're not quite at the end, but if you've got any questions, please pop them in the chat, because there's a little bit of a lag before they come through, and we'll do our very best to answer them. We touched on this a little bit before, I suppose, but you know, what are your messages to, like, the naysayers, those that are poo-pooing AI? What does Kate want to say to them?
Well, I think it depends what industry you're in. I was literally, just before I came on here, and sorry to sound really middle class, but we have a nanny, and she said to me that, you know, someone was saying AI is going to take over everybody's jobs. And we were like, well, there's no chance you'd be able to look after a toddler. An AI robot would not be able to look after a toddler. So I would just say that, you know, it depends what industry you're in. It's not going to take over, and it can't do every industry. You know, there's certain industries it can't. But in other industries, it is an assistance tool. It helps elevate what you're doing. It's never going to replace a human. You're always going to have to add a human touch to it. It's just, it isn't a tool that you use as part of your job, and it helps you create and helps you be better at what you're doing. You could say, you know, all these designers of years ago, when they didn't have Photoshop and you didn't have all these things, they had to just do it all by hand, didn't they?
It was all done by hand.
All done by hand. But now what are you saying? You poo-pooing Photoshop and saying we shouldn't be doing Photoshop. We should just be doing it all by hand. Well, no, you know, you wouldn't have some of the incredible, and the CGI, the people doing CGI, you wouldn't have some of the best films that have ever been produced if you didn't use those kind
Well,
of.
we've just seen the Beatles bring out a new track, right? I mean, you know, that has been in part due to AI being utilized. I was thinking about things that would never be able to be done, like hairdressing and dentistry. But saying that, I do know now that the technology has become so good that a surgeon could be in London and operating the PlayStation paddles whilst operating on someone in America. I mean, the technology is definitely moving at a pace, and really sort of quite exciting, because what all of this is doing is freeing up our time, isn't it? I mean,
I think it's just making you so better at what you do. It's just helping you and improving the level and the quality of work that you're putting out. And also, if a majority of people are using it, well then, but then some people can use it better.
Yeah, some people sort of think that it might sort of that AI may take over the human race and actually get rid of us all.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty scary, and there is a chance of that. But I mean, as long as it doesn't go to that extreme.
Do you know what I'm going to say to that? We do a pretty good job of killing ourselves.
Well, we do, and I think we would put a pretty good fight against that if it
Yeah.
decided to try and take over. We wouldn't be letting go without a fight. But yeah,
Yeah.
they've been saying for years that you were going to have these flying machines that everyone's going to be
Yes.
going around, and
Yeah. We're
it's just
getting
too
closer,
dangerous.
I
Everyone
think.
will kill themselves.
Yeah, we're definitely getting closer with cars. I drove a car the other day, and it kept beeping every time I moved from one lane to the other without indicating. Which,
Oh yeah, my car shakes if you go out of your lane.
yeah,
And
it's
it's actually I've turned it off because I don't like it. I'm like, no. And then my car also, if you get too close to something, it puts on an emergency brakes. And I'm
yeah,
like, no.
yeah. It's very scary, isn't it? So, in terms of the people watching this, right, and most of them are going to be small business owners. How practically can they use AI to get them PR, or what sort of tips would you give them to utilize AI within their PR creation or getting them PR?
I think you could definitely use it to create pitches to journalists. So say you have you've used a tool to create your press release, and you have some content, and then you're like, well, how am I actually going to get the attention of those journalists if I send it to them? So you could use it to generate a pitch. So obviously, whenever you send over a press release, you don't just copy and paste the press release and with the headline and don't say anything else. You always put an introduction email with what your kind of elevator pitch is, what we call
Mm-hmm.
it, kind of what you would say. And if you were to get into an elevator and you were to click to the second floor, you should be able to pitch what you're trying to sell in that 30 seconds. So we always say, write an elevator pitch in an email about what your press release is about. So again, it can help with that. It can help write that pitch, because you can put into it, I want to target X journalist, or be more specific in these type of journalists who are writing about this. How do I write something that's really engaging and attention grabbing?
Yeah.
So that's one way you can do it. You can also use it for research, in terms of researching publications that your target audience are reading. So say you're targeting, say you're a trade, you're a food product and you want to be in food service. So you want to know the list of media that write about new food products going into restaurants, for example. It can help you generate lists of those titles, not necessarily give you contact details. You'd have to probably ring up the publication if you didn't. We have databases that we have, but which are quite expensive, where we have all the contact details, but you can certainly
Okay,
find.
if you don't know who to send it to, what should you be looking out for?
So if you don't know who to send it to, if you say it's a news, it very much depends. So you've got a news article, say you're launching a new product and you're targeting these food service people in food
Mhm.
service. So you want to target F&B managers, you want to target that type of people. And it's a new product. You would want to reach out to the news editors or the news reporters of a publication, if it's a trade publication.
So if it was the grocer.
If it was the grocer, yeah, you would say, right, I want to speak to the news reporter, or the news editor, about this product. And then you would ring the grocer up and ask if you can have the email. They'll probably give you a generic email address.
Yeah.
But you can find out who that person is by just Googling it. And so you would send it then a specific. I would definitely, if you've not targeted them before, read the grocer, have a copy of the grocer, read the articles, see which journalists are writing what articles and whether they fit within your brand, and then target that specific journalist and say, I saw you wrote an article about X. Here's our product. I think you would be interested in this story because I realize you write about similar things. It's just basic. It's common.
Well, look, I'm gonna pull you up on this now, Kate. It's basic and common sense to you because this is your world, right? But
Yeah,
for the
absolutely.
majority of business owners, it's completely alien, and they've got absolutely no idea where to start. So they were very, 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 very good tips. Very good tips. Thank you.
Sorry to say it's basic.
It's just basic.
It's just basic.
We've got a couple of lovely comments. Anne cut in saying, "Great points. AI is just an assistance tool." I know Anne's a web developer and she'll be using that within her business. And Yvonne is saying that there's some amazing information there, Kate. AI is the way to go for all companies. That's what Yvonne is saying. We're going to wrap things up now, Kate. Is there anything else you wanted to just share with the audience?
No, I think what I would probably do is also consume as much AI content as you possibly can. Some of it isn't obvious, but there's so many articles online about AI content and showing you examples of good and bad content. So just consume as much as you can, really. And research the tools that are going to be the most effective for you. A lot of them are paid for, and they're the best ones, and you'll get the most out of those ones. But I just think key point to take away is that you don't, as you said, you don't want to get left behind. It is the way forward, and you can use it in a very, very positive way. I mean, AI it can be used badly, and it has been. There's a lot of recent things of what's happening in the world at the moment that, it has been used in a negative way, in a bad way. And also when sometimes you read some national media and some of their stories and headlines, and you can totally tell that it's been generated by AI, because you've got 5 stories in the feed, and the headlines are all exactly the same with a few words changed. So there are some very bad examples, but there's also some really good ones, and just consume them and have a look, and then see how you can utilize that for yourself.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Like, I mean, you're never going to know whether or not it's been generated,
or whether it's just a really bad journalist.
Yeah, but like I read stuff these days, and it sort of starts off in the realm of business, in the modern age, and you're like, oh, there we go. That's definitely something.
Well, no, I used an example. I mean, if I say this and anyone reads this publication, they'll know exactly which one I'm talking about. But there's a certain publication that's like, XXX cut a stylish figure. XXX cuts a solemn figure. XXX cuts a happy figure. And you're like, really? Is no one actually looking at these?
So we've got one more question that was sent in advance from Jack, and Jack wants you to look into the crystal ball now. What do you think's going to happen within AI within 20 years, Kate?
Good God. I mean, that's a really hard, that's such a hard thing. I mean, look how advanced we are as as people from 20 years ago. Like, you see things from 20 years ago, and it's like the olden days, like the kind of the grain on the TVs, and you're like, is this when I was only like 15?
Yeah, standard def, isn't it? Standard def now to HD. You're like,
yeah. Like, so technology is moving so much. And so I mentioned before, I think, CGI, the AI can't do CGI at the moment. But I think that in the next 5 years, definitely that is the way forward. I think in terms of us as not necessarily in industry, but more in life in general, I think, the way you use things like Alexa, or you use Siri, it'll come on now, but the way you ask them to do things and how they assist your everyday life, I think that's only gonna people, everyone is going to be using it. I don't think, there's so many people that don't use it. I mean, I only recently started using Siri for like, just, yeah, it's come on now. I only just started using it for, when you're driving and you want to change the music. Like, I would, have to wait until I'd stop to change the music or do something, or like take my eyes off because I didn't want to take my eyes off the road. But now you're just like, well, play this song or play that song. And it's brilliant. So I think in the future, I think you'd be able to, rather than type in things into systems, you'd be able to just verbally say, write me a press release all about this with this, and it would literally do it. You wouldn't even need voice recognition and voice technology. I think that's the way forward. You literally wouldn't be you're not going to be writing or typing anything. You're just going to be verbally saying things for someone to recreate it for you. But I always remember My dad was always massively into computers, technology. You know, he was the first person, you know, to be, you know, when the internet came out, he would spend hours and hours and hours and hours testing it. And the voice recognition, I remember when I was young, and he would just sit there for hours at night repeating some words, like, yeah, you're just saying words over and over just so it recognized one word. And it would take an hour for him to literally understand it to send a sentence. And this was 20 years ago. So look where we are now compared to there. Like,
Yeah.
it's going to come on so much. But I think voice technology in doing anything, writing email, everything is going to be
Yeah,
the way forward.
it's definitely come on leaps and bounds in terms of recognizing like colloquial accents and that kind of thing. Even today, and it's not great, right? But you can't see this now, but on the screen there is the narrative going. But sometimes people sort of text me and go, "Oh, Miles, you know, how are you creating this? Because it's not great." And it is just what LinkedIn does, right? It's the LinkedIn tool, and it isn't great, but it's getting better. So I'm another generation on from you, Kate, and we used to have to like load our computer games up for like maybe on a tape for 45 minutes, and then it would say syntax error and you'd have to start again.
Oh no, yeah, I am not part of that. I'm not that era.
Yeah, so look, I think it's always a good sign when you don't have any questions, because you've sort of summed things up in a nutshell. So Kate, I've got to say thank you so much indeed for your time today. I think it's very exciting where AI is going to take us, and my advice to all of the listeners here is always put the PR in the hands of the professionals. Kate runs a fantastic business. If you're looking for PR for your business, please get in touch with QComms. They've got offices in London and up north in Manchester. So there's no excuses. And I'm sure, Kate, that you're happy to have an opening conversation with someone about how they can utilize PR better in their business. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously at the start, I mentioned that we focus on 4 key areas, but we also, there's other, I mean, we look after Topgolf, we look after Columbia, the sportswear brand, we look after Reebok. We look after Costa. So even though we have those key focuses, we have the experience within the team to work on brands that aren't within that, and trade as well, and B2B is another key area. And on the corporate side is something that we do as well. So yeah.
Get in touch. Kate's email's there. There's no excuse. Drop her a line and see if she can help you with your business. So that's it, Kate. Thank you so much indeed. Enjoy the rest of the week. But for now, ta-ta.
Bye.